So let's see how things are going here. So it looks like Nolen, I believe, is up 1-0. We'll make sure that everything is kosher as far as life totals and everything is concerned. As now here is a Rootborn Defenses that's going to allow another worm to come into play and make sure none of the creatures die. So Gard looks like he's doing pretty well in this game.
Yep. He's pretty far ahead, although Nolen still with some life to play with.
Now, Lauren's version of this deck, he is Mono Black Devotion with a small touch of green. His touch of green, he does have a main deck Golgari Charm, 4 copies of Abrupt Decay in the main deck, and then some sideboard cards, which we'll get to in just a minute here. But we want to keep you up to speed on what's going on here. As again, Nolen is sitting at 8 life. He has a Desecration Demon and a Pack Rat, a Mutavault among the lands that he does have in play. Gard has 2 copies of Advent of the Worm, the second one made from the Rootborn Defenses Populate, a Smiter and a Banisher Priest. I didn't expect to see back-to-back green-white decks.
No, and much different builds. Jeremy is a much more populate-oriented deck. 4 main deck copies of Rootborn Defenses, 2 main deck copies of Justani. He's really going down the populate road.
Well, he attacks very quickly here after drawing his card, getting everything in the red zone, almost representing another copy of Rootborn Defenses here is what it feels like.
That would certainly make his attack quite easy.
Yeah.
That was
I call that one the idiot-proof one.
Yeah.
Get in there. My creatures are not going to die, as Mutavault's going to get made into a creature. You see a Hero's Downfall and a Gray Merchant of Asphodel there in Nolen's hand. He's going to start blocking.
So Lauren has to try to make blocks here where he gets blown out the least in the event that there's a Rootborn Defenses while trying to protect himself from... It's basically trying to split the difference here. Make inroads with your blocks if he doesn't have Rootborn Defenses, while also protecting yourself in the event that he does.
And just to make sure that things are clear for you guys there at home, Banisher Priest is actually eating a Pack Rat. The Pack Rat is not in play to block with, so after the dust settles here, that Mutavault's going to bite the dust. Some things are going to trade. Guard's board position is still quite good, as he did have another copy of Rootborn Defenses. And we'll see what the former Invitational Champion can do, which is play a Gray Merchant. Going to move Nolen up to 8 as the devotion count, 2 from the Desecration Demon, 2 from the Gray Merchant. But he is empty-handed right now.
Although I believe, no, he's not lethal. He's a point short right now.
Yeah, if he can kill the Desecration Demon, or I mean, play a creature in pre-combat to tap it.
Then he has lethal. Celestia Charm will also do the tick.
Yeah, you put the worm in front of the Gray Merchant, it'll trap over for 1, so that's 1 plus 5 is 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So more than enough, as Jeremy Gard's going to tie up this matchup here. Green-white tokens versus Mono Black Devotion going to go to a 3rd and final game here in round number 3. You've got Nolen's deck list in front of you. Actually, you've got, Gard's deck list in front of you. So how can he turn things around?
So again, really populate-oriented list. 2 copies of Heliod, 2 copies of Tristani, 4 main deck copies of Rootborn Defenses, alongside 4 Celestia Charms, 4 Call to Conclaves, 4 Advent of the Worms, 4 Soldier of the Pantheon, 4 Experiment 1, 4 Voice of Resurgence. So a lot of the good green-white hits backed up by a lot of populate effects. In his sideboard, he has 3 Mistcutter Hydras, 3 Bramble Crush, 2 Banisher Priest, 2 Pything Needle, 2 Boon Satyr, 2 Fleece Main Lighter, and a Ajani. I'm not quite sure why Fleece Main and Boon Satyr are in the sideboard or what particular matchup he's trying to address. I do like the additional copies of Banisher Priest, as blocking's reasonably powerful against Jeremy, and the Mono Black Devotion deck has no end of good blockers. But otherwise, and I like also bringing in the additional Ajani. Planeswalkers can be pretty powerful against Mono Black in these drawn-out games. But otherwise, I would pretty much keep his base roughly the same.
Taking a look at Nolen's sideboard here. The obvious card that's coming in is Lifebane Zombie. There are only 2 of them, but they're certainly in his deck right now. I don't think those are coming in for game number 3. 2 copies of Devour Flesh, 2 Doomblade, a Graves of Granite, a copy of Erebos, 2 Duress, 2 Dark Betrayal, a Vraska, and 2 copies of Golgari Charm. So, Lifebane Zombie is the obvious one. 2 copies of Devour Flesh. Obviously, you like removal spells against green-white, but how good is this particular one in this matchup?
Well, Jeremy has Experiment 1 and Soldier of the Pantheon and Voice of Resurgence, all of which Devour Flesh are pretty poor against. There's also Heliod, if we get to that point in the game. So, yeah, it's removal spells, and removal is pretty valuable against green-white decks. But Jeremy has a lot of cards in his deck that make Devour Flesh well below average.
2 copies of Doomblade, I think, are pretty easy to bring in, so those are going to be in here. Gaze of Granite.
Nice.
I like that one a lot.
It's really good against token decks.
Yes. I think that's almost certainly going to be in here. Erebos probably too slow in this particular matchup, even though Nolen will be on the play this go-around. 2 copies of Duress. There are quite a few spells in Gard's version of green-white. But, I mean, again, it can be a pretty narrow card, but at the same time, taking a card like Reborn Defense is pretty good.
Yeah, and Loren also needs to just be kind of efficient with his mana, too. You know, the place where the Black Devotion deck gets into trouble here is a lack of mana efficiency. And so having things to do on the first turn is really valuable, because often it's doing very little.
2 Dark Betrayals, not so much. Vraska's a little bit too expensive in this particular matchup, more for your Devotion Mirrors. And then 2 copies of Golgari Charm, where the modes in this one don't seem so great in this matchup.
No.
Yeah, I don't think that this is really going to come up too often, as Nolen's going to start off with an Overgrown Tomb. He keeps his 7, as does Gard. He's going to play a Temple Guard. We're underway in Game 3 here between Nolen and Gard, as a Pack Rat is going to show up quite early here for the Mono Black Devotion player, threatening to take over the game all by its lonesome.
A lot of pressure on Jeremy here to do something pretty good on this turn, as Pack Rat can run away with this game without too much difficulty.
Yep. No play here for Gard. Could, of course, have a card like a Selesnya Charm to actually make a creature, but Nolen's going to play a Mutavault for his turn. He does have a copy of Lifebane Zombie in his hand. He also has Underworld Connections. Of course, this begs the question, and Zvi Mashevitz wrote about this, and I do reference this article a lot because he is much smarter than I. Do you play Lifebane Zombie? Do you play Underworld Connections? Or do you just activate the rat?
I like activating a rat here.
I do, too.
I think it's going to be really hard for Jeremy to fight over Pack Rat with a long turn, especially if Jeremy has terrors to periodically break up. You see Lauren's going to make a rat here. As long as Lauren has periodic Doom Blades and such to prevent Jeremy from having his best threats on the table, Pack Rat's going to outclass all the middling stuff that Jeremy plays.
So Banisher Priest is going to take care of the actual copy of Pack Rat. In comes to play a Pack Rat token in response. Of course, you can make more rats with that thing, and I think what we're going to probably see this game is just, again, you just make rats until your opponent dies. I mean, that could certainly be the plan.
Yep.
Don't know if it's the best plan, but it can certainly be the plan.
It's hard to imagine that he's willing to offer up the trade here.
Yeah, put trade in quotes, as it were, as he can just activate his Pack Rat, make another one. Banisher Priest will die, and he'll get a Pack Rat back, and he's just going to activate here, discarding a Swamp. A little bit surprising to see a land get discarded here, unless he has another one in there, because I think what you want to do at this point is get to a mass of 5 lands so that you can attack with Mutavault and activate Pack Rat.
Yep.
But he feels comfortable doing that. He does have a Desecration Demon and Underworld Connections, and again, that Lifebane Zombie in the grip. And that Pack Rat attack was pretty safe, and now here's a Tristani from Gard. That's going to be a 2/5 that can block a little bit here.
And also gain a lot of life and make a lot of cards, make a lot of tokens itself, so...
You do see Tristani Selesnya's Voice here, a card that has not seen a lot of play, difficult to cast Selesnya card. Selesnya hasn't been seeing a lot of play, period, so it doesn't surprise you that Tristani doesn't see a lot of play, but Hero's Downfall is going to take care of that, and now the rat tokens are going to come across. Mutavault's going to go active, making those rats into 3/3s, as Mutavault is everything, up to and including a rat, and will pass the turn back. So Nolen's got a pretty good stranglehold on this game.
And that's sort of what I was alluding to before. It's really hard to imagine Jeremy being able to keep up with the Pack Rat tokens unless he's able to actually get some synergies in play. And the Mono Black deck with all of its Doom Blades and similar effects is going to be really good at keeping Jeremy's important cards off the table, and then Pack Rat can overwhelm everything else that's going on.
See, Lockdown Smider's going to join the fray here for Gard. Nolen more than happy to just attack yet again with these rats, as he knows that he can just keep churning them out. He's got Desecration Demons to discard. He has a Lifebane Zombie that he can cast or discard. Same can be said for Underworld Connections, with that Mutavault laying there as well. Those rats, while they're 2/2s right now, can become 4/4s at any moment.
Yeah. And Jeremy's almost priced in just blocking with his Smiter here. He can't take all of this damage, but it's really hard for him to win the game when he spends his whole turn casting Smiter and Lauren gets to trade it with any card in his hands.
Underworld Connections is the card that gets discarded to the Pack Rat activation. Mutavault goes active to turn those rats into 4/4s. So an attack here for 8 is what's coming across. Smiter did go in front of 1 rat. We might see a Selesnya Charm to try to save a Smiter, which I don't think is a bad exchange at this point.
I don't see that Selesnya Charm doing very much else. I mean, I guess it can kill a rat possibly next turn if they get to 5/5s, but...
So let's see if that's the route that Gard wants to take. Let's turn his Smiter into a 6/6 to be able to kill a rat. He'll take 4. He'll go down to 8. He'll have to contend with, again, 2 rats and a Mutavault. And I think that's what he's going to do. So there is the Selesnya Charm. And he does have multiple copies of Advent of the Worm in his hand, Patrick. So as strange as it seems, he might be able to come back from this a little bit. It's certainly not going to be easy, but Advent of the Worm being a 5/5 is certainly important right now.
The biggest problem is that if Jeremy says go, Lauren can just pump the brakes and put the pressure on Jeremy to do something first. Lauren has all the time in the world at this point to just make rats and wait until the coast is clear. So
there's another copy of Smiter that's going to come into play here for Gard. Opting to go with Smiter as instead of Advent of the Worm, maybe that means that he's drawing another Selesnya Charm to be able to save his Smiter yet again. Right now, as you did mention, however, Nolen has the option to just slow way down, maybe just cast that Lifebane Zombie and just get in that way. And then Pack Rat can just play on the defensive.
yeah, there's no real rush, especially, I really like making rats here and just waiting until you draw a Doomblade or similar card, and then it can pretty easily take the game over from there. And that's what Lauren's doing. He's pumping the brakes here.
Now, if you're Jeremy, this is both good and bad, right? Because on the good side, it's like, okay, I get a little bit of breathing room, so I can actually start trying to establish a bit of a game plan here, as he did draw another copy of Tristani for the turn, which is a big draw. But at the same time, that means that, okay, a rat's coming now, and then a rat can come on the following turn. And if he draws a land, that means that 2 more rats are going to come, and can I handle all of this pressure?
Yeah. Now, Jeremy's doing some reasonably powerful stuff, but there's just, and that's a big draw.
Decay.
Abrupt Decay, as that allows him to make a rat and also
Kill a blocker.
do something.
Yeah. And this is what you alluded to a little bit earlier, just the fact that he can break up some of the things that Jeremy's trying to accomplish, which right now is just build a wall of stuff. That's all he's trying to do.
Here comes the attack, and that Abrupt Decay could, for example, kill the Banisher Priest if Jeremy gets sloppy about his blocks with his Smiters and his Tristanis. This is also a lethal attack coming across, so Jeremy has to start throwing things in front.
And now you see that he realizes, does Jeremy, that I have to block. I have to get a little bit more creative with my blocking, maybe, and so that's what the blocks are going to be. You've got Smiters in front of rats. You got Tristani in front of another rat. Nolen can very simply just make a rat and then activate Mutavault. So he's not even priced into casting Abrupt Decay at this point.
Right.
So you're going to see a activation of a pack right here. You're probably going to discard Desecration Demon. I think he's going to want to leave himself with the ability to use Lifebane Zombie if he needs to.
Yeah, it's hard to imagine. Yeah, I can see him get to a spot where he has 6 mana and wants to play Lifebane Zombie plus make a rat. I can't imagine the demon getting cast.
Yeah. Desecration Demon is the creature that's going to go there. You see the rat's going to come into play. And of course the question is it better to Abrupt Decay the Banisher Priest? Or is it better to activate the Mutavault? I don't think it makes a world of difference, honestly.
I mean, there's no trick that Jeremy can really have. He doesn't have access to white mana where
Yeah.
you'd have to worry about God's Willing or some corner case card like that.
You see Nolen is just, contemplating what are the benefits of activating Mutavault versus casting the Abrupt Decay that I've just drawn for the turn.
Yeah, I think that's fine.
Yeah.
I like this.
He says activate Mutavault. It's going to turn my rats into 5/5s. You've got 4 rats and a Mutavault making into 5/5s, and it looks like a Wrath was just cast as Gard picks up the 2 Smiters and the Tristani and passes the turn back. So Gard's going to draw his card for the turn. Again, he does have 2 copies of Advent of the Worm in his hand, but they are a little bit too late to the party now.
Yeah. He's a.
There is a Smiter passing the turn back, and Nolen is going to confidently untap here. He'll take a draw step, knowing that he can activate that Mutavault and get in there with everybody and attack with an avalanche of rats. Can also still make one too.
I would imagine you would just Abrupt Decay potentially here to just remove a blocker, but it doesn't really matter too much.
Yeah, kind of semantics at this point. At the end of the day, this is a display of why Pack Rat is a good Magic card, and why the mono black deck is really good. I mean, when I was watching turn 2 of this game, as you see an attack here with Nolen that looks to be lethal, and an extension of the hand, so Lauren Nolen is going to win this match, move on to 3-0. Mono Black Devotion defeating Jeremy Gard's green-white token deck. But when I watched turn 2 of this game,